let me tell you the tale of St. Patrick and the devil-worshipping bartender who didn't feel his glass.
My name is Madison Timmons,
I'm Chris Soucy.
and we're paranormal investigators who live in the most haunted city on Earth, Savannah, Georgia.
Whether we're in the studio,
We're out in the field.
we hunt for the stories and experiences where the veil feels thin.
Shout out to our Parajunkie family on Patreon. This show is only possible with you.
And remember, this is a judgment-free circle. Your experiences matter, your questions are welcome, and the weird is normal.
So cut the lights, turn the volume up, and journey with us into the most haunted city on Earth. I'm Madison,
I'm Chris.
and welcome to the most haunted city on Earth. Hello, and welcome to a green edition of the most haunted city on Earth.
I'm wearing green.
Pinch.
No! Pinch him. Pinch him.
The pinch.
I have been pinched.
You're not wearing green either. Actually, no,
I am wearing
you
green.
are on your shoes.
I know.
Yeah.
I ain't trying to get pinched.
Yeah. It's pinch day.
Okay, we are recording not on St. Patrick's Day.
Well,
Still pinched.
So
Chris.
these were unauthorized pinchings.
the pinchies, they come out anytime you talk about St.
It's-
Patrick. So.
It's St. Patrick's week, Chris. You know Savannah. You know how Savannah
Okay.
do.
Hold on. Caveat here. Are you Irish at all, Chris?
I am.
Well,
Are
then you get to
you?
wear black.
Okay.
Oh, well, I am full black. There's
Yeah.
black pants, black socks, black shoes,
Oh, yeah.
black top.
And the Savannah Paranormal Museum shirt.
Exactly.
My great-grandfather was Bill Follis. He was a fighting Irishman. Literally, he's a
think
Golden
Irish.
Globe boxer.
Wow. So there you go. So, okay, well, then I revoke my pinch.
Too late.
Too
The
late.
damage is done.
All right.
My
So
pinch has been revoked.
before we get into it, y'all got to introduce yourselves.
Oh, my name's Madison
Patrick
Timmons.
just made that up. Patrick, this is how superstitions get started.
right. Right.
This is how ADHD the show is.
Oh, man.
So that's Madison.
I'm
That's
Madison.
Chris, and I'm JT.
Chris, and JT's here too.
Sorry, it's a festivity. It's a
We got off
it's a
track so fast.
requirement. And so yeah, also this is the first time we've been filming since I've been back from Costa Rica.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we're a little discombobulated, if you will. We're re-finding our footing. And so yeah, well, welcome if you've made it
Yeah,
through
if
this
you're still
part.
listening, we have some stories to tell you.
We have
Oh,
some
yeah.
stories to tell you about old St. Patrick. We went into this life of St. Patrick to a degree in a previous episode about 2 years ago. So if you want to hear more of like the historical parts of his life, you can find it there. We're going to talk more about like his personal folklore.
Yeah.
Which I think people forget when you look at things that are technically within a religious context, that a lot of these in general are technically folk stories.
Oh, absolutely. He is a folk hero. People
Yeah.
conflate the sainthood with the figure that he actually presents as the Irish folk hero. Because as a folk hero, he was fighting monsters, striking down, hordes of people. He was in folklore. He is a bloody, bloody man.
That is true. Yeah.
And there is nothing in his history that suggests that any of that is true. I think that we have like his confessions. He wrote his own account of his life, and nowhere in there was like, I killed an entire town.
Right.
You don't see that. So most of these stories, I think, started originating about a century after his passing, and most of them came like 3 centuries after his passing.
As every good folk story should.
Yes.
It's gotta simmer for a second.
Well, even saints
yeah.
as a whole, saints are they get heaped all of these stories upon their shoulders because to begin with, in order to become a saint, you have to perform miraculous feats, and these miraculous feats oftentimes get conflated into all kinds of wild tales and stories. So
Exactly.
yeah, even at the base, in order to become a saint, you have to do some pretty inhuman things. Not
Right.
inhumane.
Inhuman.
Inhuman.
Exactly. Abnormal to the average human.
Right.
Yes.
Above and beyond human capabilities.
Exactly. So before we get into that, a couple announcements that we have for you. So From One to Wicked is coming back by request of the masses. People are looking for a season 2, and so therefore we shall be providing you with a season 2.
Absolutely.
And that is going to be premiering live for the public on March 20th. And then the Para Junkies over on Patreon will be getting it before that. Otherwise, though, always a good time to become a Para Junkie. But it's a good time right now, especially because we have a lot of things coming up. We're locking down a few new investigations, which is pretty fun.
Yep. Working on that.
Yep. And also, I will be starting to put out what is called Haunted Yoga.
Woot, woot.
Woo!
Because
So
them ghosts are full of tension and stress, and they just need
to relax, regulate, if you will. Yeah, I just got back from Costa Rica and I got my 200-hour certification in trauma-informed yoga.
Congratulations. Hold on, I have an applause. It's a very long one. Almost over, and we're done.
Yes. Yeah. So technically now I have 230 hours because I have already 30 hours in extended learning. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, if you want to come do Boo Vinyasa, as Alex is saying in the comments, come and join us over on Patreon because at least for right now, that's where it's going to be living. And we're going to be filming that in the Paranormal Museum. So you can also, while you're flowing, you can watch for any kind of spooky activity that might happen around us because they have been very active recently.
We've had some weird, strange events. There are also a lot of suppressed spirits going on right now. So if you visit us, you'll see that we've hit a couple of dead zones. I think we've over warded maybe, and we've been actually talking about lifting a couple of wards off of certain objects because it's weird if you put items inside the salt rings or inside the wards, the activity kicks up. But if you're outside of it, nothing. It's very quiet. So we're doing a good job.
The ghost hunters that are too responsible.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. Exactly.
Who wants to watch them?
Nobody. It's like. This doll was really freaky, but we took care of that.
Absolutely.
So now you can just look at our really freaky doll that is no longer allowed to do anything.
Freaky within a square foot.
Freaky within a square foot.
You have to be within that square foot. Maybe you can dip a pinky into the spookiness, but who knows?
Yeah.
But
that's good.
All right. So let's go ahead.
I have one announcement.
You have an announcement too.
It's a big one. It's a big one, y'all. On April 4th, we drop our new website and brand new merch site.
Ooh.
And we are revitalizing the merch. We are going hard on the merch. You're going to absolutely love the new designs. And it'll be the same thing, hauntedcitypodcast.com. But I've been learning a little bit of coding and doing all of that stuff, and we're getting it done. So it's gonna look really good.
Yeah, so far from what I've seen, it looks really clean and nice and very
Chris,
organized.
I'll show you after this if you got time.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into it.
Okie dokie. So St. Patrick is considered a patron saint and national apostle of Ireland. He flourished, which, by the way, I had to look this up because I'm not Catholic, so I didn't know. So flourishing means that you are kind of coming into your sainthood, if you will. So performing those miraculous feats, if you will. So flourished in the 5th century in Britain and Ireland. Because fun fact, St. Patrick's not even Irish, technically. He's
technically Roman.
Yeah, he's technically Roman.
Who occupied the British Isles at the time. And he was actually enslaved in Ireland for 6 years.
Yes.
As a Ute.
As a Ute.
As a Ute.
That's a fun word. But he is credited with introducing Christianity to Ireland and played a significant role in the Christianization of the Picts and Anglo-Saxons.
And it's probably, just for clarity's sake, he actually didn't introduce Christianity.
Right.
It was bebopping around. There was another missionary before Patrick who was trying, but I think he was driven out. He was chased away.
Yeah, it's which is a very common theme when you look into places that were being Catholicized, if you will.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so his feast day is celebrated on March 17th and is marked by religious traditions like church services and secular festivities such as parades, like the one we have here in Savannah.
And as often the case, saints' feast days are the days that they die. So it is believed that St. Patrick passed on March 17th, and that is mostly a consensus of scholars came together and deemed that was the date. But usually when you have these celebrations like Valentine was actually the day that St. Valentine's was murdered, however you want to put it. So the next time you are giving out, your Valentine's heart, know that it's because he was shot through the heart with an arrow.
You're giving a piece of his dead, cold heart to your loved ones. How sweet. Honestly, the goths out there, that is really romantic,
I think it is.
Exactly. So renowned as St. Patrick's Day, its widespread fame and celebration across the globe reflect Ireland's rich history of immigration, but Patrick was born in Britain to a Romanized family and was abducted at the age of 16 by Irish raiders. Some people say pirates, but I don't recall any.
I think pirates is fine because I think that we mistakenly put pirates as the very tight period that we know as piracy.
Right.
But the word pirate simply means, sea-bound brigand. It's raider and pirate are kind of interchangeable in a lot of instances, but they were probably much more known to be like Irish raiders, kind of like the way Vikings, because Viking is also a job description. It's not a people, but it was raiding parties that didn't really travel great distances because they didn't go far. They just kind of went across, from one island to another, and then And when I was first researching St. Patrick years ago, it made it sound like St. Patrick was like singled out and grabbed off the beach. They took 1,000 people, captive and enslaved them. And so it wasn't like a dead of night. They show up and they're like, "Look at this kid, let's take him." And he was all alone. And he wasn't all alone. He had other people, and I think it's Wales is the consensus of where it was. The British, in Wales, Welsh individuals were taken in. And another thing that's interesting to note, they say that he was enslaved as a shepherd, a sheep herdsman. There were no sheep. He was a goat herder.
Yeah.
They had goats. They didn't have sheep.
Which also makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you go, I think where that misconception comes from is when you think of Ireland, you think of sheep because that's a major livestock. But yeah, if you're not actually being located in Ireland as a area, then you're not going to necessarily have sheep. But
well, and sheep wouldn't actually come to Ireland for another century or two.
That is true. So they took him from his father, Calpurnius, which is a drastically more
very Roman name.
A very Roman name.
Well, even his real name is Roman.
Right.
It's like Mancius or Mancius.
Yeah, it's something like
it's like Sutramancius. Patrick was his given Roman name, I believe, when he became a priest and missionary.
Yeah, which even that is not technically Patrick. We'll get into that though. So his father was a deacon and a minor local official, and so they carried him into slavery. So during his 6 years there, he was a herdsman of goats. He fervently embraced his Christian faith during this time. So that's kind of his little blip of a moment that people feel like is the start of his hero's journey, if you will, if you're looking at it from that sort of context. But one night, it is said that he had a dream which is a very big thing for St. Patrick. He was definitely considered a prophet of sorts. He had
visions and dreams.
Exactly. And so it is said that he had a dream that the ship he was to escape on was ready.
That's right.
Ooh.
But like 200 miles away.
Exactly. Yep. So driven by this vision, he fled his enslaver and found passage to Britain. There, he faced near starvation and endured a brief second captivity before reuniting with his family.
He was also given a vision for that second captivity that would only last 2 months. And sure enough, 60 days later, he was free.
So he was in a good spirit, if you will, where you're just like, okay, I'm starving now.
And famously, he converted the people on the ship to Christianity because they were all going to starve. They had landed ashore, and some people say it might have been France or Gaul, and they were starving, and they asked him to pray. And he prayed, and then a whole herd of swine flocked around them, and they were able to kill the swine and feed themselves and save themselves. And so all of them took that to be a sign of the divinity of whatever God Patrick was praying to.
Correct. 33 people to be exact, but I'll tell you a little bit more detail about the swine story too. But yes, so the dream. The most renowned passage in his book, which is the Confessio, recounts a dream that occurred after Patrick's return to Britain. In this dream, a man named Victoricus? Yeah, Victoricus. That sounds right. Victoricus. It's very Roman.
It's very Roman.
Presented him with a letter titled The Voice of the Irish. As Patrick read the letter, he perceived a group of Irish people imploring him to return and walk among them once more. Overwhelmed by emotion, he was unable to continue reading. Despite this profound experience, Patrick hesitated for a considerable period before responding to the call due to his limited education, which is something really interesting about his lore, too, is that a lot of people felt like he was a simpleton, if you will.
Well, he referred to himself because he believed that his first enslavement was a punishment from God for not being more scholarly about the Bible, more scholarly about his faith. He thought that God was punishing him and actually accepted that fate because he refers to himself multiple times as simple, as not having knowledge, as not being as well read or as well versed. And even those 6 years are pivotal learning years from 16 to 22. He felt that he was not being taught what he needed to know to be a man of faith. He could feel that. And so he reinvigorated himself on the idea that if he could sort of prove his faith and continually show his devotion, that what he doesn't know scripture-wise, he would be able to show devotion-wise.
That is absolutely true. And yeah, and that's kind of why it can be interesting to look into these saint stories, is because these aren't demigods, you know, they don't
become so, but
they become so. They're like born again demigods.
It's fascinating because truly in the Catholic faith, the saints are very similar to the Lao of voodoo. They're very similar to those lesser deities that people pray to. So, like, if you have a profession, then you have a patron saint. And the patron saint is looking over your profession, and you have to celebrate his feast day. You have to do all these things. And it's very similar to a lot of pagan rituals, to a lot of things that supposedly the Catholic Church was driving out. But actually, the Catholic Church was not driving these things out as much as they were incorporating them, rebranding, and giving people the opportunity to observe their faith in a new paradigm. So it is very interesting. And what's really fascinating and wonderful, and I think in St. Patrick's case, it is this interesting thing because we have his words. He actually wrote down his confession and the letter, the epistle, the pisto. He wrote a letter, an angry letter, to a soldier and an army contingent, and he like laid it out for them that they were being blasphemous. So you get these interesting glimpses of the person because they wrote in their first person. They wrote about themselves. Thomas Aquinas famously wrote all of these amazing works, and we get to know them personally. So if you want to know more about saints, a lot of saints wrote their own story. Of course, knowing that, St. Patrick had a couple of biographers who were just hitting the sauce hard and like, you know who was great? Cuchulainn was great. You know what we should do? We should take Cuchulainn's story and give it to St. Patrick. That's a great idea. So yeah, there's a lot of mythos to St. Patrick's story as well.
Very much so. And so even on the eve of his re-embarkation for Ireland, he grappled with doubts on his suitability for the task. However, once he arrived in the field, his hesitations vanished, as I guess any saint would. But he began to feel filled with unwavering faith in his God. He embarked on a journey across vast distances, baptizing and confirming individuals with unwavering zeal. In a diplomatic manner, though, he presented gifts to the chieftain in one region and a lawgiver in another, but he declined any gifts offered to him. And on at least one occasion, he was imprisoned again within chains.
Naturally.
Which, I mean, if you're trying to, whenever you're trying to come in and impose your religion, I mean, it's to be expected that they're going to be like, this guy's crazy. Lock
And you're
him
almost
up.
instantly, one of the most heinous crimes imaginable of the period was heresy. If you are a heretic, a person who operates against the religion, you were put to death. And so to show up representing another religion, then it makes sense that the standing religion would see you as an enemy and would see you as a threat.
Exactly. Now, after his imprisonment, though, he addressed his converts with poignant and lyrical farewells, which I think is interesting, at least in his capacity of what he presented as poetic. Because, again, he did say he's like, I'm not a very good writer. I'm not very good with my words, but...
Let me say something else.
Right.
He says he wasn't.
But he was.
But he wrote in Latin, spoke in Welsh, also spoke in the native tongue of Ireland. He was a multilingual person who also wrote volumes on his own experiences. He was very humble, I think. I completely agree. But I imagine that to hear him speak obviously was very moving. People followed him. People converted. And these were not willing people. These were not people who would be an easy audience. He showed up and he was able to convert people through the very weight of his character. And I think that needs to be spoken of.
After his imprisonment, he addressed his converts with poignant and lyrical farewells, expressing his sorrow for those who had been killed or kidnapped by the soldiers of Coroticus. And during what he is considering his crusade, he felt he needed to treat the Celtic tribes fairly, which is so funny to me, considering that that's his whole thing, is running the pagans out of Ireland. But
yeah, and it's interesting because it has conflated a lot, and I love to indulge in the joke that that he massacred the pagans. He was murdering pagans, which is just kind of it's a funny juxtaposition to what people think of saints doing. But the driving out and the concept of eradicating pagans, it was mostly converting. He was converting them. He was not murdering them.
No.
But there are lots of stories that kind of suggest otherwise, but there's also no proof of those stories.
Right. It was more so, if you're going to murder anything, it was a murder of pagan tradition and Celtic.
Yes, I think that's what needs to be thought of. The driving out was the driving out, and specifically Druids. Yes. I think that was his primary target because they were the most organized of the religions. They had books, they had practices, they had a very
power,
well-established hierarchy, and that was the true threat to the Roman Catholic Church, was an organized religion. And so he was responsible for burning and destroying so much Druidic text that we have lost so many things that were probably the most eloquent and beautiful, like natural observances of faith. But the Romans were fierce.
The Romans love to thrust themselves into situations they didn't need to be in, and that's just classic. But nonetheless, so while he was doing these activities, he constantly faced danger of martyrdom. And in response to a grievous accusation endorsed by his ecclesiastical superiors in Britain that he had pursued office solely for personal gain, which if you're like going for sainthood, like that is a horrible thing to say about somebody. And he recounted incidences from his laborious episcopate. This is his quote. So, laborious episcopate. Basically, he was saying, I am just a wee humble man. And he expressed his gratitude to his creator for choosing him as the instrument through whom many had been, who had worshipped idols and unclean things, aka pagans, worshiping a whole pantheon, essentially, of Celtic gods and deities. And being that in the Bible, they were like, you can't pray to anybody else. They were like, the devil worshippers. So they now, though, have become the people of God. They've been cleansed, essentially, in his mind. And Patrick's success in his mission didn't fully encapsulate his personality, though. So he's like, I got other things outside of just cleansing a whole country. But
I'm not a one-trick pony.
Not a one-trick pony. So as his writings began to gain greater understanding, it became increasingly acknowledged that despite their occasional incoherence, they reflect a profound truth and a rare simplicity. And not since St. Augustine of Hippo had any religious diarist laid bare their innermost thoughts as St. Patrick did in his writings. So most of them were very clerical.
Right. It wasn't like, these were very much like a diary.
It was very much so. Yeah.
And that's fascinating because it gives us a real insight as to life at that time and also his personal thoughts, views, and opinions.
And as D.A. Binchie, the most critical patrician, which is St. Patrick's technical name, scholars aptly stated the moral and spiritual greatness of the man shines through every stumbling sentence of his rustic Latin. I love calling something rustic when it's just a little Latin. Wrong. So as you can tell,
he had a Welsh accent.
Yeah, and Latin's hard. Leave him alone.
Latin is hard. And he wasn't in school from 16 to 22.
Exactly. Yeah, of course. He's going to be, rustic. So now that we know a little bit about St. Patrick, here's some legends about him. Now,
some good legends.
Some good legends. And are all of them based in truth? Probably not. But at the very least, they are fun folk stories.
Oh, absolutely.
So before the end of the 7th century, Patrick had become a legendary figure, and his legend continued to grow. One of the legends states that he drove the snakes out of Ireland into the sea, leading to their destruction. This story is often repeated to explain the country's lack of native snake species, which, by the way, if you didn't know, Ireland doesn't have snakes.
So snakes cannot make it to Ireland. Like there's no way for them to immigrate because the waters are so cold that snakes could not possibly swim to the island. And there are no native snakes to that cold rock.
Which is very understandable.
Yes, completely understandable.
If I were to be a snake, Ireland would not be on my top list of places to be.
It's like, where would I sun myself? In Ireland? No,
where
I don't think so.
Just overcast all day? Sometimes not. But most of the time,
and like a winter that lasts nearly 8 months. I don't know.
Right.
It's just not my jam.
It's not any snake's jam. So that was a way that they somewhat understood why there are no snakes there. But the story is also often repeated as a way to represent St. Patrick running the pagan Druids out of Ireland, and mostly with their faith. they drove, like as we were saying before, they drove their faith out of Ireland.
Right.
In a 12th century hagiography claims that Patrick raised 33 people from the dead, and some of whom had been deceased for many years. So
That's got to be uncomfortable.
That's got to, like, how stiff would you be?
I don't have any blood in my body.
And
I'm so dry.
I kept picturing.
I don't know why they're old Jewish men, but yeah.
Yeah, that's
What have you done?
There.
This is crazy.
I kept picturing Billy from Hocus Pocus
Oh, yeah,
as
right.
like the people that
Just
he
like
was
coughing up dust.
just like and then the jaw falls off. Got to sew it back on. That's what I imagined. And so he also is said to have prayed for the provision of food for hungry sailors traveling through a desolate area, and miraculously a herd of swine appeared.
Yeah.
Like Chris was saying. Now, another legend, and arguably the most famous, he is said to explain the concept of the Holy Trinity, 3 persons in one God, to an unbeliever by illustrating it with the example of the 3-leaved plant with a single stalk. Can you take a guess of what plant that might be? So traditionally, the Irish have worn crosses or shamrocks, the national flower of Ireland, and in their lapels on St. Patrick's Day, which falls on March 17th.
And the Shamrock story doesn't even show up until like at least a century later,
Right.
if not 3 centuries later. And that is obviously how long it takes to stew up that story. Because St. Patrick had the opportunity to write that down.
But
And you don't think
didn't.
that he wouldn't have been like, oh, I got a good one.
Like,
This is going to go down in history. I got to write it down. That's the rustic Latin, by the way.
Yes,
that's what it sounded like.
that is what the
sounded
rustic.
kind of like Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah,
That is rustic
3
Latin,
entities inside of one. Oh, Shamrock.
and you can trademark that.
Yeah, you can.
That's rustic Latin.
That is rustic Latin.
And well, so here's the thing: he did have his vices. At least so.
What?
I know. At least
a man with vices.
a holy man with vices.
Oh, even less likely.
And this is my personal favorite story of his encounters with shamrocks. So,
Oh no, I don't like leading in with vices and then encounters with shamrocks.
yes. So
Was
this
it the McFlurry or the McShamrock Shake?
the Shamrock Shake. Yeah, honestly, I think that St. Patrick would be very proud of the Shamrock Shake, and you can quote me on that. He would be very proud. So he's like, "This is my legacy. It's the Shamrock
This is
Shake,
it. This is what I worked and died for.
my martyrdom."
My martyrdom.
So, despite his numerous shortcomings, such as the extinction of an entire species of an animal and the deliberate violation of religious customs, there exists a truly remarkable aspect of St. Patrick.
Oh, really?
His unwavering commitment to a full pour.
Oh, yeah.
It's-
A patron saint of Ireland? That's a little stereotypical.
yeah. And once upon a time, a pub, Patrick ordered a whiskey. And however, I don't know where
He was alive in like the 400s, right?
they had to have pubs. I mean, the water was poisonous, so you had to drink something.
Drink something.
They drank whiskey, obviously, and or green beer. Alex said, "What about green beer? Did he do any of that?" No, food coloring did, but it's big food coloring.
Big food coloring. We're going to blow the lid off of that conspiracy.
Yes, big food coloring is the one who is in charge of that one. But I also think that he would have been very proud of a green Guinness in his time. So nonetheless, he was in a bar or a pub. He ordered a full dram of whiskey. And however, he was taken aback and deeply offended when the bartender's pour failed to fill his glass. It's the rudest thing you could do to somebody, obviously. And Patrick accused the bartender of harboring a devil in his cellar. feeding on his dishonesty and implored him to rectify his behavior. And the bartender moved.
I want to go on record before we get too much further into this. I don't think whiskey existed at this point in history. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's pretty common knowledge that whiskey came about like in the
I'm going to look it up.
1400s?
I'm going to look it up. We're going to get
Or
this
the
answer live.
1300s?
But
we are live. So yes, we this is a Google alert. And I only say that because it seems like Irish whiskey came after Scottish whiskey.
Earliest known written record appearing in Ireland in 1405.
Wow.
And St. Patrick was alive in 400 AD. Some people argue that he was born in the 300s and lived through into the 400s, but a lot of people think that he was actually like 420-ish. So, and I only say this because this is the exact kind of thing that, like, a braggart, like, trying to show up a bartender who didn't pour him the appropriate amount out. Let me tell you the tale of St. Patrick. I'm the devil-worshipping bartender who didn't feel his glass. You know, that just sounds amazing, right? I subscribe to this. I want that to be the truth. But there was like, even the idea of a pub in that standard way, I guess tavern makes sense, or, I'm sure there was some kind of thing, but to call it a pub makes me imagine just some drunken guy at the bar going, fill her up.
Fill her up.
Or St. Patrick will come and kick your arse.
So, JT, when you get a chance, look up and see if they had anything that it was equivalent to whiskey in the 400s.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because
the draw might be.
I'll do that right now.
Because I'm imagining that even beer didn't really come about. It would have been mead of some type.
Yeah, it probably would have been
and
mead.
I'm sure
if
they
I
had
to guess.
wine naturally.
Maybe
wine is
fortified
definitely
wine. Yeah.
very, very old. But I don't know what the liquor, I'm not even sure when liquor started being liquor as we recognize it.
Yeah.
Because that was probably a process that took
I mean,
centuries to perfect.
You know, there had to have been somebody
Like,
back
this
then.
wine is bad. Keep drinking it.
Keep drinking it. See what happens. Maybe you lose eyesight. Who knows?
In 400 AD, mead was the closest spirit-like drink.
Okay, so maybe it was a dram of mead. Who knows?
Mead.
But
Which is probably closer to beer than it is to actual liquor, I think.
Depends.
In my understanding. Because it's like a honey
it's a honey wine almost.
wine mixture, but they also used yeast in it, which was what makes it more like beer than like, because it was supposed to also, while it kept you like drunk and obedient, it also gave you enough energy to do your manual labor.
And Alex, don't worry, we'll talk about Lent. St. Patrick absolutely had his hands in Lent. He absolutely had.
Can we get a day off?
No, never.
In Lent, there's one day. So yeah, you have to be really careful of what you stave off for Lent, because St. Patrick's Day is right there in there. And if you're like, I will go 30 days without drinking, it's like, oh, but there's St. Patrick's Day.
But wouldn't St. Patrick want you to be a part of the feast?
Quite obviously.
Yeah, I feel like, at least according to this story, he would have absolutely honored it. Maybe this is just a story that was created to make people feel better about getting absolutely snonkered on St. Patrick's Day. But yeah, so the bartender, the devilish bartender that was keeping the devil himself in his cellar, obviously, he was so moved by Patrick's words and immediately transformed. He became the epitome of generosity, ensuring that everyone's glasses were filled to the brim. And
is that generous? That might just be bad business sense.
I think that is actually maybe.
He went out of business 3 years later.
Maybe, and I'm not, and this is totally hypotheses, so don't come at me because this is not Christian.
Oh yeah, by the way, we are not historians or scholars of any type. We are definitely working on pre-assumptions, things that we've heard, things that we might have come across. So like if we're saying things that you know to be untrue because you're a trained academic, We are not.
Yes.
we're having a good time.
We're here to tell fun stories, whether they be true or not.
Hey!
But
I'm talking a very terrible Irish accent. By the way, I do employ a terrible Irish accent, and I apologize if that offends anyone. I do slip into it. It is a problem with me. It is a full-blown problem with me. Although my grandmother was Irish.
So there you go. And
that is not an excuse. It's a bad Irish accent.
Which is
what's worse is it's more insulting to like my actor friends than anything else.
That's fair. Well, at least you own it, you know? But yeah, so in theory, wouldn't it be witchcraft that he is putting this bartender underneath the guise of just being an endless fountain of whiskey? Sounds about right to me. Maybe he learned something from the Druids before he ran them away.
He may have kept a couple of those books he burned.
That's what I'm thinking. So now, according to this extraordinary story, it is now commemorated in the title Drowning of the Shamrock. So every St. Patrick's Day, at the very end of the night, the tradition is supposed to be that shamrocks are submerged into the final round of drinks, preferably whiskey. And a toast is then raised in honor of St. Patrick, celebrating his unwavering preference for the full pour. And I think people in Savannah live by that credence, and that's A-okay, you know? Whether the story be true or not, whether it was mead or whiskey, which it sounds like it was not whiskey, still a fun story.
Well, and we attribute these stories to famous figures in order to give them validation, to validate these stories. And who's to say that it wasn't some other holy man, some other priest, some other, and it just got to a point where saying it was St. Patrick gave it more weight.
The lump all. Yeah. All right. So, Alex, here comes your moment of Lent. So, St. Patrick's encounter with demon crows. Now,
the crows.
So one Lent, St. Patrick embarked on a 40-day fast atop Crog Trick, a mountain in County Mayo, and from his arrival, he was relentlessly harassed by crows. Just relentlessly. And in fact, the sheer number of crows obscured the sky, drowned out the sounds of the world, and likely contributed to St. Patrick's sanity throughout the ordeal. So surprisingly, the crows were not ordinary birds, but in his opinion, demons.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting that one of the most powerful deities of Celtic tradition is the Morrigan, who is heralded by crows and oftentimes appears as a crow. Or raven, crow.
Yeah, blackbirds in general. But yeah, the Morrigan is also not to be effed with.
Not at all.
Like, you do not want to be on her bad side.
She chooses who dies in war. That is one of her responsibilities, and she is a scary, scary entity. Also a very good patron if you are looking for a patron to worship in a non-Christian aspect, because she is also apparently very involved.
Very involved.
She gets involved in your business.
And a lot of times you don't get the chance out of it.
No, you don't.
She will give you the opportunity to decline the offer, but very rarely is that achievable. So just a fair warning. So if you get a call from the Morrigan, that is, you don't really get to hang up. But
take the call.
Take the call. So despite this, St. Patrick persevered in his prayers and continued ringing a bell, seemingly driven by some unseen reason. And eventually an angel appeared and revealed that St. Patrick's unwavering faith would be rewarded in, I guess, some silence from the crows. But the angel proclaimed that the Irish people would remain Christians until Judgment Day, which I guess is except the 10% of them that now identify with no religion, but they don't count. So it's...
Maybe they just kind of meant, the ones that are Christian will remain Christian.
Right. Until Judgment Day.
The ones that aren't will,
they'll do what they
come and go as they please.
Yeah. And however, when St. Patrick descends the mountain, encounters the snakes, his nerves are completely exhausted after enduring 40 days of incessant cawing from 1,000 crows. He's like, I hate the wildlife in this country.
Irish wildlife's the worst.
And consequently, he takes off running and relentlessly chases the snakes into a lake at the mountain space known as Lagnan Demon, or otherwise known as Demon's Hollow, along with the crows and magical people. So
Whoa. Wait. We're just a side note on the word magical people?
So that's literally what it said. It was like all of a sudden he's like at the bottom of the mountain. There's a lake there, and he's like, you and you all in the lake. Get in the water.
Talk about burying the lead. Like, if you're like, he drove the snakes out of Ireland, I'd be like, what about those magical people?
Right.
He drove magical people out
He
of
drove
Ireland?
the magical people
So,
out
yeah,
of-
we don't talk about that so much. Why? What? There were magical people?
They're like, but no snakes.
Yeah, their snakes are gone, but so are the magical people.
And consider this, just a side note. How terrifying do you have to be to literally frighten all of the snakes out of a country? How terrifying are you?
I would like to point out that snakes are pretty skittish.
True.
It doesn't take a whole lot to spook a snake. The real trick of it is to not startle the snake, just to actually be loud and just making a lot of noise. The snake will generally run away from you. If you step on a snake while it's asleep, it'll bite you.
Yeah, but not St. Patrick.
St. Patrick.
He will menace his way through an entire land and scare all of them away.
And that also raises a huge question. What kind of snakes are we talking? Garter snakes?
I wondered that too.
Because it's like, it doesn't seem like venomous snakes would be a terrible issue in that place.
There's no way there's venomous
I don't
snakes.
think there's like a bunch of asps or rattlesnakes.
No. There's no
hanging
pit
out there.
vipers.
There's no pit vipers. And so he's like, a bunch of garter snakes going, why are we running? I don't know. Get in the lake. We can't swim.
With the
All
magical
snakes
people.
can swim. Snakes can swim.
Some
right?
of them.
Is that my imagination?
Some snakes can swim. Not all snakes.
Okay.
But some. If they're really fat and chunky and just like,
just all muscle bound.
Then,
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But Patrick is also honored in Ireland through pilgrimages to sites believed to be associated with him. So Krog is
Can you
one
go to
of
the
those.
Demon Lake?
Yes, you can.
That's awesome.
I feel like we should
Next
go
time
to
we go
the-
to Ireland, we should check out the Demon Lake.
I absolutely feel like we should check out the Demon Lake. And that is, again, in County Mayo in Western Ireland. So this pilgrimage takes place every year on the last Sunday of July, known as Reek Sunday, Reek, due to the mountain's nickname, the Reek.
Huh.
And thousands of pilgrims brave the elements, including rain and shine, to climb the 765-meter or 2,510-foot tall mountain on
Okay, I'm
Reek
out.
Sunday. I don't climb.
I'm not interested.
I'm not a climber, but I will swim in the lake, and we'll see what happens.
If there's a Sherpa that'll carry me, I'll
Maybe.
ride on the back of a Sherpa.
Yes, I would do that too. I require a donkey.
Yeah, I'm a luxury guy.
Yeah,
I need luxury.
luxury, just like a
Give
little
me a cart
a cart with blankets and
with blankets and a picnic basket.
yes, with snacks.
Snacks.
That sounds nice.
He ran the snacks out of Ireland.
He did run the snacks out of Ireland, all the magical snacks.
All the magical snacks.
And many pilgrims begin their journey before dawn, and some even attempt the climb barefoot.
No.
You've lost me. You have lost me on that one.
I don't like being barefoot in my house.
Oh, I do.
There's
but
no chance I'm going to be barefoot on the side of a mountain.
that sounds like my feet are going to get sliced up, and that's sad, and I don't like that. But along the route, 3 Bronze Age cairns known as stations serve as designated stopping points where pilgrims can pause to pray. Throughout the day, masses are held in a chapel located at the mountain's peak. Do they get an elevator? Like, does
Yeah, I know.
Does the father have to, I guess, like climb the mountain too and then give a whole sermon? That sounds like a lot.
When I was a kid, we lived in Italy, and we went mountain climbing in the Italian Alps. And it was my Boy Scout troop, and we were not prepared, and we weren't good mountain climbers. And it was like this crazy notion of our scout leader who thought that this would be a great character building thing. It is not. And we were so exhausted, and he told us there was a Burger King on the top of the mountain. And that's
Burger
kind of what
King.
kept us going to climb this mountain. There was no Burger King on top of the mountain. Very disappointing, by the way.
That is such a disappointment.
And years later, I saw the mountain that I climbed in a movie called Cliffhanger. The movie that Sylvester Stallone is dangling off the side of a mountain, that's the mountain that my scout troop climbed to get to a Burger King that didn't exist.
That's so mean. That's cruel. That's actually really just evil to do to children.
Yeah. He was not the best scoutmaster.
As we can tell, clearly, if he's lying and doesn't even offer Burger King.
He was trying to give us the motivation. And I actually don't even know how excited we were that there was a Burger King to begin with. Although, when we lived in Italy, there was no fast food. Wow. So it was kind of like a big deal to think that there might be a McDonald's or a Burger King because we'd heard so much about these things, but living where we were, we didn't have access to them.
Well, he could have at least gotten you somewhat close to a Burger King as a treat and carried that up on his back like a good person. But anywho, so the next story is called Chekhov's Ball of Flames. So many legends, Ball of Flames.
I just like the Chekhov part myself.
Yeah, I know, right? That's
again the theater nerd in me is still curious.
I mean, can you imagine if he wrote a whole play about a ball of flames?
Well, if you have a ball of flame in the first act, it's got to be used by the end of the play in the third act. Yeah.
So many legends surrounding St. Patrick revolve around his legendary 5th century battle against the Druids. The Druids had their own pantheon of gods and occasionally indulged in human sacrifice, allegedly. I throw it in there. It is just like that is a possibility, but it's not, you know.
They probably had a lot of rites and rituals around death that made it seem that it was sacrifice when it was actually different versions of honoring the dead.
Right. And so, for instance, every spring, Ireland held an annual festival for the Feast of Beltane that commenced with the Irish High King lighting a fire on the Hill of Slane. During this time, people honored the gods, prayed for a bountiful harvest, and celebrated with grand bonfire rituals. It's quite similar to the Easter vigil observed by Catholics, for a reason. So Beltane, a sacred celebration of the sun, darkness, and fertility, was one of the year's most prestigious occasions. As per tradition, every light in the surrounding countryside was extinguished before sunset. It was the king's sacred duty to ignite the first flame that night, seeking fortune and prosperity. All other fires would then be set ablaze from this royal flame. Now imagine the astonishment of the king and his druids a year later when a light unlike any they had ever seen pierced through the darkness. Across the plain of Brega, a few miles away, Patrick, the man of God, was kindling and blessing an even greater flame, the Paschal fire. Furthermore, when the Druids attempted to extinguish the fire, they were unable to succeed. Although there is no description provided of the size of this fire, it was evidently substantial enough that the Druids returned to the king to inform him that not only were they unable to extinguish it, but they were also afraid that it might destroy the entire world. Literally. And
this sounds like a conflation of the story of Patrick burning the texts, the Druid religious texts. If you take into account the fact that he was destroying their written history and rituals, every aspect of their faith was being destroyed by fire. Then to say, how would you tell that story? And to suggest that he was rivaling their gods with this fire that was going to consume and destroy their world, which technically it did.
It did.
With very few exceptions, the Druid faith and the Druid practices were driven into obscurity. And even to this day, it's hard to imagine that that the Druids who practice today have the same access to the information, to the practices, to the rituals, to the power that the ancient Druids had.
That is very true. And so, in the Catholic version of this story, the king acknowledges that Patrick's magical abilities were superior and supports his mission to convert the Irish people. I highly doubt that. But
that's fair. And that is so
stolen
from Moses.
Yes.
Moses shows up. The snakes.
Oh, true.
He faces the Pharaoh's magicians, because the Pharaoh's magicians, and people very rarely remember this. I love that in the animated movie Prince of Egypt, they show you this. But in the Bible, the magicians of the Pharaoh actually have all of the same miracles, quote unquote miracles. They turn their staffs into snakes, and then Moses, has his staff that turns into snakes. And the interesting thing is, Moses' staff eats the staff of the parent of the pair of magicians. And I think that is something that gets lost. But the narrative is God shows magic greater than the magicians. So the magicians of any court and the magicians of any society, they show up and they say, we perform miracles. And then the saints show up and say, here's a bigger, badder miracle that puts you to shame. Follow me.
Exactly. Yeah. So now here's the thing is he does have staff lore too, and you'll hear it in our final story. So it's actually interesting that you bring up Moses, because there are a lot of parallels here. And it would
enslavement and
and it wouldn't be out of the question for Catholics to, that's something they're known for, is kind of taking similar stories and rebranding them a little bit.
Oh, absolutely, because they work.
It does. It does work.
It's like, who they really love that story. Let's just kind of rebrand it a little.
And let's make it
bring somebody back to dead. What if he brought 33 people back to the dead?
33 and gave them fish, like Jesus, right. And creating a food for enough people to eat and have some left over. There's very similar bits and pieces throughout this.
Very New Testament coded there.
Yes. And so the Catholic, in contrast, the pagan version simply explains that when an individual possesses the power to destroy an entire island, it is generally accepted that they should be allowed to have their way.
Welcome to modern diplomacy.
They're like, so you can destroy this whole place. We're not going to mess with you. You're crazy.
Give him what he wants.
So the Catholic belief was that with this Christian fire, St. Patrick effectively halted paganism in its tracks and unequivocally declared that the Feast of Beltane would be replaced by Easter, the holiest celebration in Christianity. Although there is no description provided for that necessarily as being, 100% true, there is some other historical text that can denote that maybe not that exact event, but at the very least, that is a part of history, is that conversion of the pagan festivals into more modern Christian celebrations. But now, for our last story, we have what I'm calling St. Patrick murders Celtic Hercules.
Good one. Yes. I like it.
So in Celtic mythology, there existed a legendary hero named Oisín, a demigod warrior renowned as the greatest poet of Ireland. Imagine a poet warrior. What a dichotomy that is.
Although it's fascinating, because I think if you look at every culture, there is the emergence of the scholar warrior, poet warrior. I think that is supposed to show you how well-rounded an individual is, so that it's not just bloodshed, but it is also the appreciation of life. Because I know that, like the samurai tradition, they are well-versed in poetry. The chivalric tradition, most knights must also be very gifted in oration and writing down like tales and poets. So yeah, I think that's really cool to think about.
Well, and it makes sense too to be considered a demigod. You should be a balance between,
ideally, hopefully,
brain. You should be at least a balance between brain and brawn in that way. And so it sounds like Oisín was that way. And so at some point in the ancient past, Oisín fell deeply in love with the goddess Neve, one of the queens of the land of eternal youth, known as Tirnanog, or the Feyland, in my opinion.
Yes. So, and I think we actually did a pretty good dive into Tirnanog, which is an amazing place, actually, as far as like folklore goes, because it's still very active amongst pagan practitioners, and anyone who practices modern Wicca kind of has a foot in Tirnanog, really.
And if you want to hear more about that type of lore, like the Fae sort of lore with St. Patrick's Day, I believe that should be in one of our previous episodes on St. Patrick's Day. Because I didn't really include it as much here because there is so much we're talking about with just St. Patrick himself. But there is belief that at one point, while this was all happening, that the Fae and humans coincide in one reality. And so with the banishment of pagan practices, it forced the Fae into their own realm of sorts.
Right.
And so you can hear all about that in a separate episode. But yeah, now without much thought, he found himself spending hundreds of years with her, never growing older and enjoying a life of great pleasure. But eventually he decided to return to Ireland to visit his friends. To his astonishment, he discovered that everyone he knew had passed away, a consequence of not living in the land of eternal youth. Furthermore, Oisín could not touch the ground without immediately aging himself, which is a classic symptom of exiting Tirnanog.
Yes. And in many stories of that ilk, it happens to Hiroshima Taro in Japan. It happens to a lesser degree to Rip Van Winkle when he wakes up. Mm-hmm. You know, there is the concept of you spend time with the Fae, you have unnatural long life, but the moment you leave, you age almost instantly.
Mm-hmm. So consequently, he rode around on a magical horse.
Yep.
And eventually realizing he was traversing what to him was essentially a vast graveyard, he set off back to Niamh. On his way to Niamh, Oisín encountered a man struggling to lift a heavy stone and stopped to offer assistance because he had supernatural strength, just like Hercules. And so, however, halfway through, the strap on his saddle snapped, causing him to fall to the ground and begin aging instantly. Now, you're probably wondering, how does this relate to St. Patrick? Well, I'm glad that you asked, because as Oisín lay there dying, what does St. Patrick do? He walks up because he was passing by and decides to engage him in a conversation about their respective religions and cultures. Because what else are you going to do when a man is rapidly aging and dying?
Turning to dust before your eyes.
And ultimately, St. Patrick emerged victorious in the debate, and Oisín succumbed to his fate. Despite the fact that Oisín had done nothing wrong, was merely trying to help someone and had only returned to our reality in the first place because he missed his friends and composed poetry that had a profound impact on people's lives, we are expected to accept this outcome. Because I feel sorry for him.
And this is actually a borrowing of another tale of Cuchulainn.
Yes.
That's exactly how Cuchulainn died. He fell off his horse after having lived in Tirnanog for a time. And it was the same story as far as like he got off the horse to help someone and then perished. In that story, though, there was no St. Patrick. So that's very interesting that they've added this addendum. Oh, by the way, St. Patrick debated this dying man.
And of course he won the debate when you're dying and turning to dust.
Instead of helping him back on his horse.
Right. Now, in another legend, Patrick preached to Oisín, and for so long, okay, hold on. So he preached at this man for so long that his walking staff, which he had jammed into the ground like Moses, grew roots and turned into a real tree before Oisín died.
Can you imagine someone just lecturing you
for
so
that long?
I'm sure Oisín was like, I should be dead by now, right? Oh no, he's still talking. Still talking.
He's still talking.
Yapping. And he's speaking Latin, which I don't speak, so I don't know what he's saying. It's rustic Latin, too.
It's rustic Latin. So that is what we've got for you for today. So thank you so much for indulging us in the folklore of St. Patrick. And again, at the end of the day, it's just fun stories.
It is fun stories. There's a story of St. Patrick laying a curse on a village, and the entire village dies. And to this day, that village is unoccupied. There's another story of St. Patrick banishing a giant monster to a nearby island. It's like you can get rid of the snakes entirely, but you just put the monster on another island. So there are lots of great stories like that. And it's because when you are the central part of a faith and a larger-than-life individual, people will start telling stories about you, like Elvis Presley.
Just like Elvis Presley, St. Patrick.
In 1,000 years, people are going to be talking about how Elvis, fought a dragon in Memphis, and it was just like, this incredible thing.
Elvis fought off Godzilla when he descended upon Memphis. Right. It's like, that's what I pictured when you said
Elvis went into a vault in a casino in Las Vegas for 3 days and came out alive.
Elvis never actually died. Elvis is immortal and living in a wax museum.
You watch it. That St. Elvis Day festival and the St. Elvis Day parade in 3535. It's going to be off the hook.
Yes. So with that, though, to wrap it all up, just because I can hear Eni in my head mentioning this, just remember that St. Patrick's Day is St. Paddy's Day, Paddy, not Patty, because that is St. Patricia, a whole different saint, and it drives Eni insane. So on her behalf, I am giving this to you because I literally just hear her voice in my head. But yes.
Also, if you're in Savannah, beware the stone stairs of death.
Beware of the stone stairs of death, and Savannah drivers.
Yes, don't drink.
Don't trust anything.
Don't drink and walk down the stone stairs of death unless you enjoy death. It's not a good choice. Don't wear heels if you're going to be here.
Yeah, do not wear heels on River Street.
Yes. Don't, in general, in life, not even just on St. Patrick's Day.
Fair.
And don't jump in the river. You can't swim in it.
The river is dangerous. It is a monster that weaves in and out and claims souls. Stay away.
It wants to eat you.
It wants to eat.
It loves St. Patrick's Day eating. It feasts. And so please don't do it. And don't get into a fight over a spot in a square. There are families here that have been in the same spot for 50 years probably.
And they are heavily armed.
And you don't want to mess with them. Just let them have it.
Also, do not accept drinks.
Yes.
Just a lot of times people will be like handing out drinks. Don't accept drinks. Don't accept drinks. I know it sounds like a great idea, but you just don't know. So don't accept drinks. Buy your drinks from a bar and keep your eye on that drink.
And also, if you are going to be partaking in that, make sure you don't carry around aluminum cans. Don't carry around bottles. It has to be in a reusable to-go cup if it is not in a
Red Solo cups are the king of downtown Savannah.
Or green Solo cups.
Green
That's
Solo
what
cups
a lot of people have too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So don't walk around. You don't want that fine.
How to survive Savannah St. Patrick's Day.
Yes. And
my
drink water, please.
Hydrate. As a matter of fact, that's a Savannah rule. Hydrate.
For the love of God, please drink water. You don't want to end up in these hospitals on St. Patrick's Day. I promise you that. You don't want that smoke. So, anyways.
Although you get a lot of good stories.
Yeah, you will. You will have a lot of good stories, but it will not be fun for you in the moment. So, that is our parenting lecture for you for the holiday. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And I'm sure next year we'll talk even more about St. Patrick's lore.
Plenty of Patrick's lore. And we can talk more about the Hibernian Society and the origins of the St. Patrick's Day Parade here in Savannah.
Yes. And at the end of the night, with your last drink, dip a shamrock in it. If you can find one. I mean, if not, you can get a little fake one, I guess.
And honestly, I would go with whiskey over any other alcohol this holiday.
Yeah. You can find it anywhere. So, all right. That is all we have for y'all. And since we didn't say our names at the beginning, my name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And stay spooky, y'all.